Dear partners, dear colleagues, dear friends, a very warm welcome. I am so excited to welcome you today to our 6th edition of the virtual meeting series. What a pleasure and honor indeed to have you back with us today. Proudly, we are partnering with the SANA Technical Assistance Facilities in this important virtual event. So a massive thank you to our long-standing partners and friends at SANA TAF and Finance in Motion, and here in particular to Elvira Lefting, Almudena Marquez, and Ole Nestingen for, and I'm very happy to be able to say that, another fantastic cooperation. A huge thank you also to the European Union and the German Emirati Joint Council for Industry and Commerce, and here in particular to Oliver Oehms for their kind support. A huge thank you also to Rebecca Schmidt for having designed our website. So as you can see, one hand does not clap. Together as partners, we are so happy to see that our GAWBL platform, which we founded to connect, to empower, and to engage with women across Germany, the Arab region, and the international community, is constantly growing. Yes, we are becoming more and more, and that is even more important in times of crisis. Yes, COVID-19 still has us firmly in its grip, and science, research, and innovation remain more important than ever. As it is science, research, and innovation to which the world now owes a vaccine against this virus. And two names clearly show what decisive part women have played in this. One, Katalin Kariko, Hungarian biochemist, who tireless and sometimes even ridiculed belief in the power of a molecule made modern corona vaccine possible. And second, the scientist Özlem Türeci, who together with her husband, the scientist Uğur Şahin, after decades of research founded BioNTech, and as we all know, all three developed the first messenger RNA-based vaccine approved for use against COVID-19. So a success story in which two female scientists played a pivotal role. And to me, so amazing to see that the ideas and the work in their minds have now impacted hundreds of millions, if not billions of people worldwide. A success story that clearly shows it is only together that we can address the current and future challenges. So this is why I am so happy that today we would like to discuss the vital role of women in STEM as drivers for innovation. How can women be promoted in science and research? What opportunities arise in the interfaces of science and business? And what role do international networking and the promotion of women-led startups in STEM play? And this is why I am all the more excited to welcome now our fantastic moderator and speakers today, sharing their tremendous expertise and very personal experiences and insights into the STEM fields with us. And maybe now you can hear my verbal drum roll. Dr. Carola Meyer, Group Leader of the Physics Department at the University Osnabrück and Deputy Spokesperson for Equal Opportunities at the German Physical Society. Teresa Banu, Equality Officer at the Max Planck Institute for Brain Research and currently working on her PhD. And Hala Barakat, Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the AUC School of Business, joining us from Egypt. And being an AUC alumni myself, it is so nice to see that in a way, very personal bonds do reconnect here. So I'm truly happy that you have also accepted our invitation. And we agreed beforehand that you, Kate, will introduce our speakers in more detail in a moment. So it is now my pleasure to introduce to you our wonderful moderator of today's session, Dr. Kate Morgan. Kate, you have a BSc in Material Science and Engineering with a minor in Applied International Studies from MIT in Boston, where you got to know the science and technology landscape in Germany through participation in the MIT Germany program. You then received a MAC in Material Science from the TU Munich and a PhD in Physics from the University of Duisburg-Essen. And you're going to share the secret with knowing Dr. Carola Meyer, I think, in a few seconds, because you have a special bond as well. You are also certified as a project manager and as a quality manager from TÜV. And Kate, based on your personal experience, you know how important international exchange is in the field of science and research. And this is why you have been actively promoting it since 2017, working as an international relation manager in the corporate development department at the research center Jülich. And you are currently coordinating the Palestinian-German Science Bridge, a fantastic initiative that brings together German and Palestinian scientists. And that's where we and how we both got to know each other, luckily, I have to say. So you have an enormous experience in grant writing, supervision of international students, consultations and strategy building for scientific partnerships and evaluation. And currently you are participating as a speaker on the Diversity and Integration Sounding Board at Research Center Jülich. What an impressive CV. And to be honest, Kate, I couldn't think of a better moderator than you. And this is why I'm truly grateful that you have accepted to be our moderator today. So again, a very warm welcome to you all. Wonderful to have you with us today and looking into this virtual round of concentrated STEM power, fresh ideas and scientific expertise. I am all the more looking forward to an insightful, inspiring, and engaging session. And now, Kate, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gabi. Yeah, I was also really, really excited and happy that you asked me to moderate this session today. Like you already said, I have a PhD in physics and am currently an international relations manager at the research center in Jülich for research projects. And the more that I'm working with especially international, but any really students and young scientists, the more it's really clear to me that, first of all, with respect to equality or diversity, integration, equity, we've come a long way, a very long way already, but the conversation is far from over. It's also clear to me, the more that I work in these kind of situations, that D&I really benefits everyone, not just the affected people. And that's, of course, also really important. What's also very interesting seems to be that there's similar challenges in this regard everywhere in the world. But because we have then different social systems and situations, these challenges manifest sometimes in different ways, and they're also addressed differently. This is something that I think really is also worth a little bit more dialogue. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to hear what everybody has to say about that today. Maybe just one short housekeeping matter. So I've participated in a couple of seminars just as an audience member in Gabi's webinar rows. And one of the things that's really good is that there's such a strong focus on interaction. So the format for today is that we will ask the three panel members, Carola, Teresa, and Hala, to give short presentations about their work, and then we'll follow with a panel discussion, but also directly to the presentations. And after the panel discussion, it would be really great if all audience members could type some questions into the chat function, or I think there's also even directly a question and answer function here. Exactly. Yeah, so I think very first thing to start, we want to learn a little bit about the audience members, and we're going to start that with a poll question. Gabi, if you could.
Here we go. I hope you all can see the poll now. Okay. So results are coming in. Still waiting for more answers to come. It's 72%, though there's still a few answers missing. Okay, so here we go. Let's have a look at the result, though not all of you have responded, but never mind. Interesting. Can you all see the results?
We can. So we have an audience that's about 50% really young scientist level, PhD and postdocs. So that's, I think, really interesting and helpful for us as speakers when we're giving the presentations to keep in mind. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm going to close it.
Yeah, and at this point, I think we can already start with our first speaker, our first panel member today, who is Dr. Carola Meyer. So maybe a short introduction from me. Carola got her PhD in physics at the Freie Universität in Berlin in 2003. Since then, she's had a postdoctoral stay in Delft in the Netherlands, a young investigator group at the Peter Grünberg Institute and Forschungszentrum Jülich in Germany, and is currently a faculty member and senior scientist at the University of Osnabrück, also in Germany, where her group investigates carbon nanostructures, for example, the fields of spintronics and biosensing. I can say from personal experience, because I was a PhD student in Carola's group in Jülich from 2009 until 2013, that Carola is not only a dedicated scientist, but also a really great supervisor. She really takes a lot of effort to build up a strong sense of community and good communication in her team. And in doing so, of course, she provides young scientists with an environment where they not only have a good knowledge exchange, but also the opportunity to be themselves and learn about their own strengths. In addition to her scientific work, Carola has been involved in promoting gender equality really throughout her career, participating in committees and holding offices both through her employers, also on a national level at the German Physical Society. And she also has some experience with international events. And very luckily for us, she's here and can give more information about her work now. So, Carola.
Thank you very much, Kate, for this nice introduction. So let me try to share my screen. How this works. Okay. You now see the presentation here? Okay. So since I'm the first speaker, hello everybody from my side here. And since I'm the first speaker, I would like to give a little bit more general introduction also about what is the fundament we are talking about here, what are the bits of the numbers, and to look into women in STEM also worldwide and not only in Germany alone. And so I got you some numbers from the UNESCO Institute for Statistics what is the percentage in the respective country of women in STEM. And you see on top there's India, and very much on top you also see the United Arab Emirates. So I think it's very similar in Arab countries that many women enter the STEM field with respect to men. Yeah, it's almost, well, it's closing to 50%. And I say closing to 50% because when you want to find Germany in the list, you have to go way down. And we have only 28% women in the STEM field, people working in the STEM field are women. So when you come to Germany, you will find a very different environment. Yeah? So very male dominated, actually. And what I also would like to point out to you is gender gap. It's the Gender Gap in Science survey. So that was published beginning in 2020, right before the Corona pandemic started. That was, this is very much supportive of what Kate already mentioned in her brief introduction. Having a look at how, what is happening in science and in STEM between women and men, and which obstacles do women face there. This is apparently similar, very similar all over the world, with some differences or regional proportion differences, which we might discuss also later on. But it's very similar, and what they find, and what I also encountered when I discuss with women from all over the world, is that there is a hill we climb that men don't have to climb. And it's, as I said, very similar for all of us. So you can see it here. Yeah. So basically, in this Gender Gap in Science report, it turned out that sexual harassment is a very big issue everywhere where we go. Then low encouragement, missing role models, which might be different in Arab countries, seeing that there are so many women entering STEM, lower doctoral program quality, slow career progression, and last but not least, on top, we all see a salary gap that women in STEM earn on the same position less than men do. And though these are very general remarks, maybe, or very general fields, for example, what enters in the slow career progression in academia is, of course, important to have a lot of high-ranking papers published. And when you look at the development there from the 1970s, where less than 10% of the top journal papers in STEM were authored by women, when we look 50 years later now in 2020, in astronomy, astrophysics, and chemistry, it's still only 20% of the authors of papers are authored by women. And in mathematics and theoretical physics, it's still less than 10%. So it appears that the gap kind of is closing, but not maybe as fast and as much as we like. And at this point, I would also like to ask the audience a poll question. So Gabi, if you might, because here I would like to know if you encountered any of these obstacles that are shown in this hill in your own career, or do you know a woman in your country who did? So it would be very kind if you could answer that.
So it's starting, yes, answers are coming in. 27%. 50%. So shall we wait a few more seconds? Yes.
Yeah, one has to think a bit now, so.
Okay, I think we can share the results now.
Does it work, or do I have to exit?
I just shared the results. Can you see them? Are they visible? So maybe then you have to close the presentation maybe for a second.
Oops. Kind of. Okay. Oops, I cannot. Okay.
Or I could just read the results. What do you think? If that also works for you. So we have 75% yes.
Okay.
We have 75% yes. We have 17% no, but different ones. And it would be interesting to know more which ones then.
Yeah.
And only we have 8% no.
Okay.
So the vast majority, yes.
Thank you very much for answering. I think we can also pick. Now I see this. Now I see.
Okay, so it's too late, but okay, anyway.
Okay, no, but this is very interesting. So thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, this is of course not representative, but yeah. So you see, and if you have not yet seen or don't know about this report, feel free. So the webpage was given on the first slide, so one can download it. It's for free. Yeah. So to see, because there are also, of course, suggestions made how to take action against these obstacles that women face in science and in STEM. So while this is worldwide, and obviously it's also in this audience that there are these obstacles or other obstacles. Now I would like to show you some statistics about women in physics in Germany. So when we look here at women in physics development, so this is again percentage of women and on people in physics on different career steps, so to speak. Yeah. So the red curve is finishing master's degree. The blue one is finishing PhD. Then we have this yellow one, habilitation. This is a very German thing, or a German-speaking countries thing. We also have it in Austria and in Switzerland. It used to be very important in Germany. Nowadays, it's more the junior professorship that is something like an assistant professorship. So to enter then the career as a professor, and you see in black the line of the professors. So percentage here. And since also Gabi asked me to say something about my personal career here, so this is where I started my studies. And when I started, there were so this number here, this percentage means 6 female professors all over in Germany in physics. Yeah? So basically, I never had a female professor during my whole studies to see. So this is where I received my PhD. You can see that comparing to finishing studies, so I finished here in 2000. Yeah? So a bit more women enter the PhD studies compared to finishing master's degrees with respect to men. Yeah? Not so many more, but a bit. And then, as Kate said, I was abroad and then I came back, and here I started my own research group at the Research Center Jülich. And so this is about habilitation and junior professorships, and you see that there now the numbers are way lower. And then this is already about taking action. Actually, there were 2 big programs all over in Germany where junior professorships were created by the federal government and given to the universities. And people there were very keen to raise the numbers of women in academia, and especially also in the STEM fields, and here also in physics. And the idea is when we have more female assistant professors, then in the end we have also more female professors. Because you see that the numbers here, they were increasing only very, very slowly. So this was the first program, and here you can see the second program, where really now the number got even higher. There are many more women now having junior professorships compared to men when you compare this to the level of the PhD even. So this is really affirmative action, I would say. Yeah. So we are really trying to help the women overcome the hill. However, when you look at the professorships, at the moment, we do not see any effect here. Yeah, so there are no kinks whatsoever. And this first program is now already 10 years, happened to be 10 years ago. So this should basically by now, if there's an effect on permanent positions at the university and these programs help, then this should become nowadays visible. So we are still waiting a bit what's going to happen in the next years, but it's not so clear. And at the moment, I'm very skeptical whether this affirmative action on the assistant professor level or here junior professorship level really had an impact later on academia. Yeah, but this is certainly something which here in Germany, people in Germany try to close the gap. Yeah, there I was 10 years. So a few words about this working group for equal opportunities in the German Physical Society, DPG, which is one of the largest physical societies in the whole world. So what do we do to help close this gap or to help women climb the hill? So we provide statistics like the one you've just seen. Yeah? So we look into that and make this and publish that and make this general knowledge. We try to we increase the visibility of female physicists because lack of role models is really a big issue here in Germany. And for example, we have a social media campaign called Physikerin der Woche, so this female physicist of the week, which is very successful. And we also support an annual conference of female physicists. This conference exists since 1997 already, and actually it was also the first conference that I encountered, and my first poster I had on that conference, my first talk I had on this conference, my first invited talk I had on this conference. So it's like I'm a good example for how such a conference keeps women staying in STEM now. So it helps a lot. It's a good practicing field and also a networking opportunity. It's one of the networking opportunities that we promote. And of course, we try to point out unequal opportunities wherever we can. For example, when it's about receiving prestigious prizes. And yeah, well, here you see from the last before Corona conference, female physicists, the participants. So for us in Germany, it's always very nice to see such an image. And actually, there was the first time I met with Professor Jutta Kunz here again, with whom I did my theoretical exam in the master's degree. So this is me, and this conference brought us back together again. So this was very nice. This is kind of for academia, but of course we also care, also in this working group and also in the German Physical Society, we not only care about academia, but also about industry. So I want to share, the last thing I want to share with you is an example from Ruzin Anoglu. She's also a member of this committee of the working group for equal opportunities. And she's an entrepreneur. And I think she's a very good example on how you can enter from, how women can innovate, bring innovations to the STEM field, also outside of academia. So she did her Master of Science with a focus on optics and laser physics at the Middle East Technical University in Ankara. And afterwards, until 2008, she worked as an application specialist for surgical lasers. Also in Ankara at Neural Incorporate, but already for a German company, Bausch & Lomb, which is a producer of laser equipment for surgery. But then she felt she wants more. Yeah, so that was not enough for her. She wanted higher positions. So she did her PhD in physics, and she did it at the Freie Universität Berlin on control of laser matter interactions. And then until 2016, she was then a team leader in product engineering for medical segment of Leonid Fiber Optics in Berlin. And then she founded her own company, Lab on Fiber, together with a colleague whom she had met during her PhD studies in Berlin. And they're now very successful promoting and developing laser tools for medical applications. And she's also giving workshops on entrepreneurship for women. So we try here, and she especially tries also to help other women to found their own companies and be successful in industry. So yeah, thank you very much for this. And this was basically my talk, yeah.
Yeah, so Carola, thank you very much. And also thank you for leaving us with the great example. I think the first question maybe comes automatically after the poll, because there were a few people who answered it by saying that they hadn't encountered the problems that were listed in your mountain that you wrote, but they had encountered other problems. I was one of them. What I meant with it was, I think all the problems that you, or the challenges that you had, were real and that people have that. But for me personally, I thought the two-body problem was one that was the most difficult to overcome, which I think wasn't on there. For anyone who doesn't know, the two-body problem is if you have a partner and both of you are looking for scientific careers, mobility is normally really important. So it can be difficult to find positions together. Carola, I think you also have experience with this.
Yes.
Yeah, would whoever also wrote that they experienced other challenges, I would really encourage them to write in this question and answer box what that is, because I think that would be a really interesting point to discuss. I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, Carola?
Sorry, what is now the new question? Can you?
So my question would have been, like, I suggested the two-body problem as an addition to the.
Yes, for me, I mean, I met my husband particularly during my PhD when I did it in Berlin. And then it was very clear that, for me, it was already clear that I wanted to enter academia. So it was clear that I have to do my postdoc at a very high-ranking group. And we already knew, because he's also a physicist, yeah. So it was I met him in the same group. So he was supervising basically as a postdoc my thesis. And it was clear for us that if at one point we would like to be together, we would have to work in complementary fields, because when we stay in the exact same field, we would not be able to end up at the same department or in the same city ever. And this is why I changed, or one reason actually, why I changed my subject a little bit after the PhD, where I still worked in my PhD. I did electron spin resonance, and then I switched field to transport, actually. So I went to Delft and to one of the top groups working on carbon nanotubes those days. And there I learned everything about low temperature transport you need to learn, and that was very good time. But of course we had to commute between Berlin and Delft for 2 years. And then when I came to Jülich, my husband, later husband, but then still fiancé, he was staying in Berlin. And I was then living in Cologne and commuting to Jülich. And we were commuting between Berlin and Cologne, basically, for 7 years or something. Yeah. So I think we have had 10 in total. Yeah, I always say we had 7 years, about 700-kilometer commuting relationship. And also when then we married, and then we got our daughter, and still we had to commute, because he then had to go to Mainz and I was still commuting to Jülich. We had kind of the same home base, yeah, but still, I mean, that was very, very exhausting. But then it turned out what actually we planned, that in the end, when we have complementary fields, we can end up at the same department. And this is what happened in the end. However, there we were also quite lucky, because the negotiator here, that was the vice president of the universities, my husband got a call to a professorship. she was really promoting double career couples. And that was helping us a lot. Of course, the department here had also to be open, and usually it's difficult if you say, when one cannot distinguish who did what. Yeah, and I had, from myself, it was very clear. I always had my own career, my own group. It was always clear that these publications I have been authoring. And when you have a couple, otherwise, it's very difficult for other committees to distinguish who did what. Yeah. And usually people don't like that so much. And here was very clear, and people knew what they would get very different point of views here. And so I think they were happy. And now we have, since 6 years already now, really all people, the parents and the child, so we work and live and learn all together at the same part, in the same city. So this is very nice. Yeah.
Okay, so you really had to play the long game there.
Yeah, that was very, very long. Yeah. And still commuting time was longer than that we stay now together. Yeah, though it's already 6 years. So that was, yeah, you have to have a long breath for that sometimes. That's how we did it.
Yeah, then I'm really happy that it worked out. Good. There was a question from the audience.
Yeah, exactly, Kate. We have a question from the audience. What are the reasons for this gap when it comes to senior positions at university? What would you say?
Me. Yeah, because it's still in Germany. I think it has something to do also with the boys' network. So, when we talk about the old boys' network, that the thing is you have to do a lot of networking in order to get to one of these permanent positions. And this is also something that I experience is very difficult to get into this networking. Because when you're a woman, you're always forgotten. Yeah. When there's a conference and people are thinking about speakers, they think about their fellow colleagues, but this is never the woman for some reason. Yeah. And when you look at the percentages of speakers at conferences in Germany, but also on an international level, you will always find less women than men giving the big speeches there. And this is an issue. And this is like it's like when you are a superior and you hire people, one knows psychologically people tend to hire people which are similar to oneself. And to break this bias, and a lot of people do not know about this bias, and especially physicists like to say, no, there is no bias. We are all completely objective. Yeah. And they refuse that they can have a bias at all. It's just about the numbers. But actually, psychologically speaking, I would say we all have a bias there. And so there's still a bias against women in general, because the men are in the positions and they hire men and not women. And so far, and this is a bit why I'm also a bit disappointed about that this junior professorship programs have not yet led to any increase, or major increase in the numbers there. Of course, you need 3 positions for that, and they are lifelong positions. So of course this is difficult, to break that part then. But I would have liked to say that at least this has a little bit of impact, because by now there are more women on the qualified level. Because before people could say, okay, we don't have any applications from women who are qualified for this position in particular, but now there should be. Yeah. So for this now, I don't have a good answer besides the thing that there's still this bias, and we still have to work against this bias when it's about hiring procedures.
Well, one more question in the Q&A box. Do you know, Carola, you showed a study in, I think, the first slide. There was a question if there's also a study about this on the European level, so like from EU countries. Do you know?
No, this though when you look into this global survey, Gender Gap in Science, a lot of the answers came from Europe, and Europe is an own region. And so it's not so much compared between the different European countries, I think, but also the issues there are very similar. And this you see also from the numbers in the survey. So we had it a little bit in Germany that we did our own surveys, but I don't know from the other countries now. But also, I mean, when you recall the first slide, I mean, also in Europe, I'd say when it comes just about numbers, how many women do enter the STEM field. Then also when you compare all over Europe, Germany is really in the lower third, with the numbers there.
Okay. All right. Gabi, are there any other questions in the box? No. Okay, then thank you again very much, Carola. Now I would like to move on to the input from the next panel member, who is Teresa Banu. She brings in her own unique experience to the virtual round here today. So Teresa studied biomedical science with a focus on physiology at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. She then worked as a research assistant studying autism spectrum disorders at the National Center for Biological Studies in Bangalore in India. In 2018, she returned to Europe and has been working on her PhD at the Max Planck Institute for Brain Research in Frankfurt in Germany. And her research topic is synaptic plasticity, so how neurons are able to modify themselves based on what they experience. Please correct me if that was wrong.
That is correct.
Good. Yeah, so in addition to your research, Teresa, you became the Gender Equality Officer of your institute in 2020, where you're working to prevent discrimination and to promote a more inclusive research culture. Therefore, you can speak today not only as a young researcher yourself with international experience, but also with experience in the field of gender equality. So yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction and for the invitation. I'm super happy to share my experience today. Do you see my presentation? Great. So as Kate mentioned, I work here in this building is the Max Planck Institute for Brain Research in Frankfurt. And on a sunny day, it looks like this. On a gray day, it can look a bit more depressing. But it's a very vibrant environment and a very interdisciplinary one. So we have people like me with a biology background, but also coming from physics, computer science, engineering, and we all work to understand how the brain works. And as was mentioned in the introduction, my PhD work focused on neurobiology. So this is a picture that I took of a neuron, and just to give you an idea of the scale, the whole picture is less than 1/10 of a millimeter. So it's a very small structure. And we study even at a smaller level how neurons behave and how they work. And here in pink, you see synapses, so the points of connections between different neurons. And in my PhD, in my lab, we work to understand at the molecular level, so the proteins and the mRNA of the synapses, how they change over time. So today, I mostly don't speak about my biology work, but I speak more about the gender equality work. And I give you first a bit more of an introduction of the Max Planck Society. So our is one of many Max Planck Institutes, which are all over Germany, but also abroad. And they cover a vast array of different research areas. Our institute is here in one of the green dots in Frankfurt, and is part of the biology and medicine section. So I will be focusing more on this field, which has some differences compared to physics, as we will see. But I think there are some general threads. So if we just look at the Max Planck Society, the biology and medicine section, and we look at the statistics of the staff that works there, Here's the data from 2020. So I'm here, I'm at the early stage of a scientific career. I'm a PhD student, and at this stage, there is equal representation of women and men. If we were to look at the bachelor's level, women are even overrepresented in biology. It's about 60%. Then there are 50% PhD student, and then as you progress in the scientific career, you see that the proportion of women drops. So it decreases at the postdoc level and at the staff scientists, and then at the very highest ranks, so group leaders or assistant professor or full professor, it is much lower. At the full professor, which is W3, is even 20%. So we see that there is interest from the women's side to study biology and work in research because there is equal representation at the PhD level. But then as we go higher and higher, women drop out of science. We call this the leaky pipeline. And we think that it is a problem. It is a problem because we lose talented scientists. So women do not drop out because they're less good at doing science. A lot of studies show that they are just as capable. This is an example that in which scientists looked at how much money women and men were given compared to their competence level. So it was estimated that women, to get the same amount of money, they had to be 2 times or 3 times more competent than men. So overall, this means that the scientific field is funding less competent men rather than more competent women, and it may result in women just leaving academia because they're not recognized. And then for the biomedical section in particular, I think it's important to point out that we want to have a diverse group of researchers that do the research because different people bring different perspectives to the table, and the women perspective can be very important. So in medical sciences, it has been women's health and physiology has been overlooked because the science that was investigating how the human body works was done by men. So for a very long time, there was an overrepresentation of men in clinical trials in animal models that were used for biomedical research. And here is a study that showed that the more women are doing the research, the more the research or the inventions are focused, the content of this research is focused on women, relevant content. So if we want, if we want to have research that is relevant for the health of everyone in the world, we have to include women so that there can be equality there. So I think this is a slide to make the point. It is important that we try to bridge this gap. To bridge it, though, we should first look at why are the reasons why people drop out of, or women drop out of biomedical sciences research. And when they are asked, why don't you want to pursue, or why did you leave academia? The majority of women say that it is difficult to balance a career in academia and a family. And I think this is probably true for also in business and entrepreneurship, for any career that is very demanding. But as was mentioned also previously, there is the problem of mobility. So the two-body problem, if you want to have a family, the lack of stability in the positions and so on. But then again, this was also mentioned before, an important part to consider is the implicit biases that we all live with. So I think this is, everyone has them, and I encourage everyone who hasn't done so yet to take an implicit bias test on the Harvard website to check for your own implicit biases. And these are just a set of convictions that we grow up with because we live in a society that tends to associate certain genders with certain traits, and therefore we grow up thinking unconsciously that men are more fit for the science job. And this has a very very important implications, because then men are more likely to be hired for scientific positions. They're more likely to be awarded scientific awards and to be given grants, and also to be their articles are more likely to be accepted in high-profile journals. And therefore, all of these are super important parts of the scientific careers. And by having implicit biases, we impact negatively on the women's possibility to have a scientific career. So now I want to give you some ideas of general concepts that I think are important points that we can do, or things that we can do to try to bridge this gap, and also specific examples that we as gender equality officers at our institute are doing. So for the family career struggle, I think it's very important that institutions step up and that provide childcare opportunities and family-friendly facilities and campuses, but also that they provide support for childcare to networking events and conferences and so on. As an example, this is a baby room that we have at our institute. It's equipped with a breastfeeding chair, a sink, a kitchen, some beds. So everyone at the institute who has a kid, or their families or their babysitters, are welcome to use it. And the other side, for the implicit biases, it is tricky, but what we are trying to do is to raise as much awareness as possible. So we organize a lot of panel discussions, workshops, and so on, to make sure that everyone who works at our institute is aware of these biases. And if they are already involved in hiring, they may not be already involved in hiring, but maybe in 10 years they will be. So we hope that by being aware and having this awareness, they can check for their own biases whenever they suggest speakers or invite people at conferences or even hire people. Then an important part of our job is to collect data. So every 2 years, we have to write a gender equality plan, for which we collect all the data, how many women are in which positions, but not just how many women are in which positions, also how many women were nominated for internal awards, how many women are publishing in our institute. And then we try to promote the visibility of women and also of underrepresented minority. And as an example of this, I want to mention lecture series that I co-organized with other PhD students during COVID, that aimed at highlighting women and non-white neuroscientists all across the world to challenge our stereotypical perception of what neuroscientists looks like. Okay, so finally, I think you invited me on the panel because I'm a young researcher that is considering at least a career in research, and I want to mention what are the things that I find discouraging and what are the things that I like at the moment in terms of gender equality in STEM. So many times if I hear stories or I read the data, it is discouraging. It makes me really think, do I want to do science and challenge myself with this? And also, I also want a family, so I consider, I think it can be tough. But on the other hand, I think it can be tough in any field if you want to have a career and a family at the same time. But I want to end on a positive note. I think right now there is a lot of momentum for gender equality. There are a lot of initiatives like this one, but many other also in neuroscience specifically, but also in all the different STEM fields, I think, that are trying to tackle some of the problems I highlighted. And I want to mention my boss, who is one of the directors of our institute, and she has been of inspiration for me in also making me interested in this topic and enabling me to organize all the events that I can organize. So she's providing support, she's providing examples, and she's providing resources. And that makes me feel like I can make a difference, and so can anyone who wants to. So with this, I finish. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Teresa. We have already directly one question in the question and answer box from Asala. The statistics that you showed about, I think, slightly under 20% women at the professor level. She's asking if this applies, if this is everywhere or just in the Max Planck Institute.
So yes, so this is directors of the Max Planck Institute of the biomedical section, but it is very similar for full professors everywhere in neuroscience.
Okay. Yeah, are there any other questions for?
Actually, maybe I can add to, because it's a good example. I reshare my screen with and go to the statistics. So it's quite interesting to look at the slightly higher proportion of associate professors women compared to group leaders, which is a higher position. And this actually reflects a program that was started at the Max Planck Institute 2 years ago, which provides a group leader position associated already with a tenure track professorship in a university. And with the start of that program, the Max Planck Society managed to boost the number of women that are group leader, because they provided an option for a tenure track at the same time. Yeah.
Okay. And what is it that you would say was so attractive or helpful to women in this position? The stability?
So, yeah, so maybe background is that the group leader positions at the Max Planck Institute are not permanent. They are 5 years plus 2 plus 2, so a maximum of 9 years at an institute, and then you have to leave. Then you have to find another position somewhere else. And I think this is very discouraging for women. After their postdocs, they are already probably having a family, wanting to settle down, and the prospect of having to move already knowing that they have to move twice is discouraging.
Yeah, okay. Gabi, are there any other questions?
There's one more question coming from the audience concerning role models. How can we manage to showcase more role models, like overall?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think there are multiple layers. So one is one advice that I give is you have to look for them. If you're a young scientist, you have to look for role models. But then at the level of if you are organizing an event, you have to check for gender balance, so that you can make sure that if there are attendees at the event, they will also see women represented in the speaker list. So I think this is very important, and it's still, I think in some conferences there's almost 100% male speakers, which is appalling. Yeah, I think for any field. And then I want to mention some initiatives in neuroscience. There are repositories for women in science, so you can go to online and look for a women neuroscientist, check for a particular field or a particular location, and you have a list, a database basically of all women that are working in neuroscience. And these are super useful tools as an organizer if you're looking for a speaker, because then you can unbiasedly get some good women neuroscientists at your events, but also if you're looking for examples and role models, then here's like a list of just women neuroscientists that you can look up to. I don't know if the other panelists want to add something.
Yeah. Anyone? Yeah, then Gabi, if there's no more questions from the audience, I think in the name of time, we had better move on. So thank you again very much, Teresa. Yeah, last but not least, I would like to introduce our third panel member, Hala Barakat. So also a short introduction. Hala graduated from the American University in Cairo with a bachelor's degree in business administration and minor in economics in 1998. From there, she gained experience in international banking and finances, but also production and retailing. For part of that time, she was an entrepreneur herself, so she directly experienced what it's like to be in the business world. She's put this quite diverse and unique set of experiences to good use in her current position, guiding and mentoring young entrepreneurs. Because in 2016, she returned to the American University of Cairo, first for a master's degree in economics and international development. But since graduating, she's stayed there, and she's currently a PhD candidate in the Faculty of Economics Political Science. But also she started providing education for employment training and workshops in entrepreneurship and related fields. And she's currently serving as the director of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Business School at American University of Cairo. So with her extensive experience and her engagement for education and entrepreneurship development, Hala is, I'm sure, a wonderful asset to the university and also to our panel discussion today. So Hala, please.
Thank you, Kate, for the introduction. And I'm very thrilled to be here today. I'd like to thank Gabi as well for the invitation to speak in such an important topic. I did not study any STEM field. However, I was raised in a family of engineers and scientists. And actually, my daughter is currently studying electric engineering in the University of Eindhoven, Technology University of Eindhoven in the Netherlands. Members of the family very much interested in the STEM. So as Kate introduced me, I studied business. I've worked in the financial field. I was an entrepreneur myself. Went into industry in textiles and leather products and fashion business. And then I returned back to the academia where I did my master's degree. And currently I'm pursuing my PhD, focusing on economic development and entrepreneurship in the developing countries, mainly Egypt and the MENA region. And I'm currently directing the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the American University in Cairo School of Business. So that center has been started 10 years back as an entrepreneurship and innovation program. Back then, the idea of entrepreneurship was not very much developed in Egypt, and the aim of this program was to raise awareness about the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship. Later on in 2015, the program became an established center. So what we currently do inside the center is that we focus on youth and women entrepreneurship initiatives and activities. When we are targeting youth, we have multiple engagements that we serve them, try to introduce them to entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial thinking, and creative thinking. And when we focus on women, we have other multiple programs that I will go through in my presentation now. Yep, if we can scroll down. So to give you an idea about the American University in Cairo, this is just a shot of part of the campus. The campus is on a 60-acre campus, environmentally sensitive and technologically enabled. We are around 5,500 full-time students and 1,500 of faculty and staff. So it's a $400 million campus. And now we are going into an extension to increase a couple of more buildings. It's an iconic campus in the New Cairo. We have our old campus where Gabi attended, which is in downtown of Cairo. Now it's one of the culture center for the AUC, where we sometimes host some of our events. But mainly all classes are conducted on the New Cairo campus. If we can go to the next slide. So the vision and the mission of the Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation is that the vision is that to become a platform to advocate for the entrepreneurial knowledge in the MENA region. Our mission is that we avail opportunities to target support for students' entrepreneurship advancement and to enhance the innovation and creative thinking. So we have multiple projects, as I said. So we here host the MIT Venture Mentoring Service Program. So this is a structured mentoring program. It's a framework adopted by MIT in Massachusetts for 20 years. And we are a certified center, so we provide mentoring to startups, women entrepreneurs, and students entrepreneurs as well. Our other objective focusing on women, we receive funds from UN Women to adapt a program where we train women entrepreneurs on how, if they have an idea, how to start, or if they have a startup that's been running, how to scale it and grow it. In the youth objective, we have different more interesting activities. We have an entrepreneurship podcast for students, and it's run by students. We have international case competition. We run annual hackathons. We run webinars, mentor workshops. We have a yearly business plan project and pitching events for students. In these events, we don't target only AUC students, but we target students from throughout Egypt, from private public universities. And we also, in the international competitions, we open the halls for international students from any universities in the world. So if we're talking about women, what we do mainly, we received a grant, a fund from UN Women to train 1,000 women entrepreneurs in Egypt. This fund is received from Global Affairs Canada, and it is jointly implemented by UN Women Egypt and the UNIDO Foundation. It's also supported locally by major institutions like the National Council for Women, the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So we provide 1,000 women in the target governorates. We have a number of governorates in Egypt, but the target for this program is 7 governorates. We provide women with entrepreneurship training. It's 2 weeks of intensive training about entrepreneurship. As I said, either they have an idea and they don't want to know where to start, or they already have a startup and they want to scale it. So we provide very specific and different tracks based on the needs of every woman entrepreneur. We also provide them with one-to-one mentoring session with experts. What I want to add is the beauty of that program is that we don't have an age limit. Most of the programs that offer to women, is always age limited. So they say you cannot apply if you are over 35 years. But this program, the beauty of it is that it's open. For we have women grandmothers in their 60s or 70s. They have baking business inside of their household, and they want to grow it and to sell it in their neighborhood, for example. We provide that. We provide, it's sector agnostic, so we are not looking for specific sectors. However, we provide financial intervention for women who works in STEM. So if we have an ideas of women who have an ideas in STEM, mainly most of them, they are working on the agri-technology, health technology. We provide like initial capital for them that support them in starting their businesses. We provide them with mentoring sessions. We bring to the table industry experts to guide them through their entrepreneurship journey as well. So as you see, this is a screenshot from the training provided with the partner logos, and the program name is Rabiha. Rabiha in Arabic means the winner. So all of this program has a gender-sensitive language, gender-sensitive material. It was developed to target women and for women. So if we can move to the next slide, yes. When we talk about gender in the youth activities, mainly in the hackathons and the competitions we run, we usually look into the gender balance. We try to have gender balance from within the teams that apply to the competitions and the hackathons, and also within the number of the participants in general, in order to provide more room for women and girls' participation in this hackathons and competition. Because hackathons is a great tool for students to increase their creativity and innovative thinking. Also, we are very inclusive in this program, so we have a certain quota for students with disabilities. So we always provide these activities in order to include visually impairment, hearing difficulties. So we are also sensitive to include students with disabilities. If we can move to, yes, and here is a very nice numbers, women at AUC, women at the American University in Cairo. So we are very proud. You know, the American University in Cairo is a 100 years old institution. Last year, we were celebrating our 100 years since institution, and we have our first female student who graduated from AUC in 1928. So we are proud of this. If you Google Eva Habib of AUC, you will find that she studied lots of things at AUC, and one of her interests were astronomy. She studied astronomy at AUC and graduated in 1928. That makes us proud. At AUC in 2014, we have the first PhD female graduate from engineering, because our only PhD programs that's offered at AUC is engineering. We have our first graduate in 2014. And as you see from the figures, AUC has almost a very good gender balance as well. General, when you see the undergraduate to the graduate level, when you see the bachelor's to the master's level, also the staff is more. We have a 51% above the director level of females. Actually, we are very proud of the number. If you look down, you see the female undergraduate pie chart and the popular majors that female usually enroll in the undergraduate. You see what from the top 4, you will find we have architecture engineering as one of the top 4 subjects that female undergraduate entrepreneurs usually register in. Also, when you look at the graduate, female graduate students, you'll find the popular majors, you will find biotechnology, also architecture engineering, and you'll find other, of course, international comparative education and business and other fields. I'd like you to take you to the last slide, which is I think this is the highlight of my talk, because this is a very important report actually that was issued in June 2021, which is talking about why strong university level STEM representation by Egyptian women isn't translating to the workplace. So the Egypt Science, Technology, Engineering, the STEM education is seeing actually a boost since 2011. We have at least 15 education ministry-owned STEM high schools have been set up. We have many degrees were offered in the international branch campuses that opened in the new capital, which offer lots of programs that STEM focused. And we know that Egypt understands women are globally underrepresented in STEM. However, we have an international cooperation minister, Rania Moshat. She is very active and advocate for more female participation in the STEM education programs. But when we look at the figures, Egypt is doing better than the average when it comes to women studying STEM. So for example, 43% of Egypt university STEM students are women. That's as of 2017, compared to 35% only in the UK and globally. So when we see women studying STEM in Egypt, we have a higher average than the global average. We will also have around 50% of Egypt's STEM graduates are women. So women made up almost 47% of Egypt university science faculty student body in 2018 and 2019. This is according to the CAPMAS, which issues statistics in Egypt. Also, we have 48% of Egypt's university STEM graduates are women. This is a report, the World Bank report in 2018. Also, the UNESCO 2021 science report shows that the percentage of female graduates by discipline is women studying agriculture represent 39%, engineering is 20%, health and welfare 56%, and the natural sciences is 64%. We also have women studying ICT in Egypt in 2021 is 36%. However, all this number is really interesting when you come to women and Egyptian women studying STEM fields, but the bad news is that does not reflect in the workplace. Though almost equal numbers of men and women with STEM degrees as in the studying, fewer women pursue STEM careers. This is based on a study published by the British Council Egypt in 2020. This data was on 22 women studying or employed in STEM fields, and this was a survey done online. So, this is very disappointing to see that women studying STEM, but actually this is not reflected in the workplace. But why is this discrepancy in the workplace to and the inaccessibility and in the irregularity of the numbers? My estimation is that the workplace inaccessibility and the gender bias is the reason. Women are particularly unlikely to hold private sector STEM roles because of the long working hours expected from them, as well as they have social expectations, they have domestic work to do when it comes to the family life. So how can we support women in Egypt to pursue the STEM careers? We need more policy implementation. We need more work hours flexibility in the work conditions. We need more support, care economy, so that we provide women and female with support with their family obligations, so that they actually can work in STEM-related fields. The other point is that Egypt exceeds global averages for women in STEM research. But we are very happy also to see women do research in STEM in Egypt, and with a higher average, with a 46% average, compared to the European Union, which is 33% in average. But the female researchers also still, they are out of the state support. Most of these research tend out not to be utilized, or they tend not to actually go to perform the research and work the research in prototyping. So my conclusion here is that many Egyptian women, they want careers in STEM. They enter into the academia, but fewer than 10%, they actually work in the industry. They pursue their further research, or they work in medicine, and they work in engineering. So, and also the research holds leadership roles, but men are still at the top of the food chain. We have a UNESCO report that breaks down the share of Egyptian female science researchers. They say that 51% PhD students or researchers, or 46% assistant professors, or 39% of senior researchers. So it's clear now that the gender bias and not the academic performance prevents the women in Egypt from entering and progressing in STEM careers. Also, the STEM gender norms are particularly rigid. So women in STEM are often discouraged from pursuing particular disciplines like engineering, medicine, and research, and biology and petroleum engineering. As I said, it's very hard for women in Egypt to balance between the demands of the STEM careers and the family obligations. So we would like to see more inclusive and better implementation of policies, more flexible hours, more aligned policies for childcare, and more avenues for promotion of women who work in the STEM field, in order for women to advance senior leadership positions. So the bottom line is that relatively high numbers of Egyptian women studying STEM subjects represent a chance to increase the gender parity in STEM fields. But we need concrete support for women in Egypt to pursue their academic engagement in STEM and eventually take it to the career field. Okay, I think by now I gave you an overview about the challenges that face women in STEM in Egypt, and an overview of women studying STEM and in the academia, and how they fail to take it into the career. Thank you.
Yeah, Hala, thank you very much. That was really interesting to hear, and also the numbers for the statistics for women in also leadership positions in academic research were very heartening. I found that's really great, and it's interesting that there the threshold seems to be more entering the free market or industry rather than getting leadership positions in academia. I think that's really interesting. We have already a question from the audience. I think maybe it's best to start with that. So the question is, even if working hours are flexible, tenure tracks, project grants, and other academic evaluations are based on publication productivity divided by the number of years after PhD, which is strongly affected by maternity leave or part-time work for childcare. How could we close this gap?
Actually, this is a very good question, a very hard question. They've been trying to solve this gap for a long time. As I said, we need some policy advocacy on not only work flexibility, but to provide the care economy that could support women caring. For example, all of us, even female on STEM, they care about their households, their kids, sometimes their aging parents. But to provide a very care economy and care support to the child, so that every woman who is working on STEM can have accessibility to a nursery, an elderly house near the place she works, the government, so that they make it accessible and easier for women to pursue her career even further. What they are doing now is that they are trying to impact policies and to look into women in STEM careers from human-centric design studies, and to see how they can flexible working hours coupled with the care support economy, impacting policy advocacy, all this together might solve the problem and engage more women to pursue their careers in STEM.
Okay. Kate, we do have another question coming from the audience. What is, directed to Hala, what is the percentage of women in STEM lab startups in your center?
Actually, it's very still, yani, the startup, when it's come to innovating, we can say like 20 to 25% from the total average, because the ideas of women are more attracted to handicraft businesses, especially when you're looking into women from the governorates. They tend to work in handicraft, they tend to work in the agriculture businesses. But when you move into the more urban cities like Cairo, Alexandria, there is the new youth and generation, they are coming up with more of technology-enabled ideas that solve health technologies, financial technology, fintech, health tech. You will find this percentage increase a little bit if you're looking into the urban communities, but still it's very compared. It's still very low. It needs encouragement and support as well, because if we have challenges, women in STEM for employability, there are other challenges for women in STEM in entrepreneurship. There are other challenges. We have a good number of graduates from STEM, as I said, from STEM schools, STEM universities, higher degrees and PhDs. They find it difficult to work in academia, challenges in academia, challenges in employability. The challenges in the entrepreneurship field still have some components of the challenges we feel in the employability, but there are other challenges when it comes to the technical support, to bring them industry experts, to mentor them and to upgrade their technical knowledge about the innovations or the new ideas that they want to adopt.
And if I may add, because we have a second question related directly to this, how can we encourage women in rural or remote areas?
In entrepreneurship?
Mm-hmm. In entrepreneurship, STEM, related to STEM. Or are there any initiatives?
Yes, actually, given in Egypt, the rural areas, you will find level of education is a little bit lower than urban areas. And we have to identify between two types of entrepreneurship in that case. We have necessity-based entrepreneurship, where women they start their own business or ideas because they have a necessity to make a living and to make an income. And usually that necessity-based entrepreneurship has very, as I said, handicrafts, agriculture business or something like that. And there are other side, we have the opportunity-based entrepreneurship, where you find an opportunity in the market and an innovative solution to tackle it, and you start working on that idea. The opportunity-based entrepreneurship is very low in rural areas, provided the lower level of education. But we target in this, we try to target university graduates who reside on that governorates, and we try to incubate them in our programs and try to work with them to support them in their ideas, to encourage them, to provide them with the mentorship they need, maybe later with the funds they need to start their programs. But that's what we are trying to encourage, but it's very challenging to find women with STEM ideas and startups in the rural areas.
Okay, Gabi, are there any other questions from the audience? No? Okay, then I would suggest, because we only have half an hour left, that we move on to the panel discussion. But the very first thing I would like to do is to have poll number 3, please.
So not all have participated. Anyway, these are the results.
Okay, that's a very interesting result. More than half of people said that they weren't sure, which I understand. I said it also. Yeah, then I guess we can start the panel discussion now. Gabi, would you be able to show the picture that we talked about earlier? Thank you.
Just 1 second. I need to just scroll back. Just a second.
Yeah, so for the panel discussion, Carola and Teresa and Hala, I guess I'll start addressing questions to you specifically, but if anyone else feels like they have something to add, please feel free to jump in and do so.
So here we go. Can you all see it now?
Yes,
Perfect.
Thank you. Good. So I wanted to start with this picture because there are different memes and pictures about this topic all over the place, but this is just one example. It's a comparison of the concepts of equality and equity. So equality is basically when you give everybody the exact same support, no matter whether they need it or not. So here, the support is this step ladder that you're giving, and everybody wants to be able to pick an apple in the tree. And I guess the apple would be a STEM career or a STEM leadership position in this case. But the problem is they all have different heights, so they have different starting points on how to reach the apple. And here, I think it's interesting. You can see with the concept of equality, treating everybody equally, the same. It is still a big step. At least one person can reach the apple, and hopefully they share the wealth. But it can go a step further and really come to the concept of equity. And equity is when you really see what people need and provide them then targeted with the support that they need, and that then in the end would come with a situation that's more equitable or fair, let's say, for everyone. So Carola, maybe you can answer the first question. Which do you see the most in your working environment of these things? And is it, first of all, sufficient? And what are some examples of, first of all, important stepping stools in your area in being able to get a STEM career?
That's a big question. So yeah, I tried to think about it, but I mean, the thing is that I think what we do when we work for equal opportunities, we try to make the people change their mind from equality toward equity. Yeah, I think this is what I try in my work, at least, that the people see that we don't have, when we have all are given the same things, the same support. The issue is that we do have different starting points. And I think still, especially in physics and maybe also in mathematics, everything which is very based on natural laws, laws of nature cannot be changed. Yeah, it's there. So people try to say, okay, when all are given the same thing, everybody can get the same, yeah. But actually, to show that this is not the case and to make them see that we treat people differently, basically, and that the women I mean, though principle, they are as tall as men are, yeah, with regard to STEM. Yeah, we are as capable as men of having good ideas and publishing good papers and being innovative. But we start with a smaller stool from right away. Yeah, so we are given not the same support, but what people observe as normal, let's say, and they think that this is equality already, is what our starting point. And this is the same for young women entering the field. And I think this reflects also a little bit in this answer to the question, are you given the same opportunities when entering the STEM field? Because usually young women, and this is the same in Germany, I have to say, of course, I'm totally free in my choice, yeah, and there are no obstacles, and I have equal opportunities here. Yeah? So the same ladder is enough for me because I'm as good as the men are. Yeah, so the self-confidence of the women is there. Yeah, but to make them see that they so far are given a smaller stool is difficult. Yeah? And even more so to make the men see that. And this is kind of where does this reflect? Yeah, I mean, it's really like in visibility and also in how women are perceived. Yeah, because there was a nice movie made of which had a lot to do with sexual harassment as well, but it was also about that it's not just the big issue where you are sexually harassed, but there are these small points which undermine kind of your self-confidence and undermine the perception of your own quality and the perception also of others of your quality, what you can do. And this has a lot to do with what Teresa has shown also, that we still picture men as the norm. Yeah, in science, but also in other fields. And it's like, for example, myself, it happened again and again that even after working a year together with colleagues closely, they thought I'm a chemist. They were 100% sure that I'm a chemist. Chemists would laugh. Yeah, I have really no idea whatsoever about chemistry. But it was just because more women are in chemistry than physics, so I have to be a chemist. That's clear, especially on the career level where I am, because I was always the only woman on that level. Yeah? When I studied, I was perceived always when I said I study physics, oh, you're going to become a teacher. And no, I want to go to research. And then I had my diploma, my master's degree, and I went to my first international conference, and the taxi driver was chit-chatting with me, and I was discussing with him, okay, I was, what was that? I was saying, conference in physics. Oh, so you are a teacher? I was like, no, I'm becoming a scientist. Yeah, and this happens again and again and again. Yeah. And this is about the perception that we have to overcome there, which lowers what women are doing basically. Yeah. So and papers are not accepted as equal quality, even if they are. Yeah. And in physics, it's always very difficult to show because the numbers of women are much lower. But Teresa has shown this nice report from, I think it was kind of medical studies on neuroscience, yeah, where it's clear that women are given less money for having the same citations, for example. Yeah? And referees still have this in mind. Women as men, by the way. It's not only the men that have this perception, but women themselves also. And I find it tremendously difficult to work against that. Yeah. So it's just to be there, an example. I think really we have to make visibility is one big issue. And this is also what young students tell me when I have contact with them that yeah, it's so late in their studies that they see a female professor. Yeah, so it takes 2 years until they see the first female professor and so on. So and then you don't perceive that you belong. Yeah, so this is kind of, yeah. Sorry, it's now a long answer, but it's kind of a very big question, I think to tackle. And this is still an issue that women, I think, are totally undervalued in general, but specifically in science and STEM.
Yeah, it is a big question, and I think it also maybe puts into perspective why so many people were unsure of how to answer the last poll question of if there's really equality in their workplace. Definitely. For the sake of time, I think we're going to have to answer some questions also during the panel discussion. I hope that's okay, Gabi, because we have one here from an audience member. Carola, do you think it's possible to have it all, dedicating to motherhood, taking parental leave part-time, and still be competitive in academia?
Is it possible? Yes, sure. It is. The thing is about the working hours. I mean, it depends competitive on which level. Certainly, I would consider myself to be competitive, though I never reached the professor level yet. Yeah, and this for sure also due to this 2-body or now 3-body problem, yeah, and so on. But I think in general, yes. I mean, you need a supportive environment. I think that's important. And also a supportive partner, and and larger supportive environment also helps a lot, because when it comes to childcare and handling everything, this I think is really difficult when you're completely alone with that, and or caring for elderly parents or something. When you're alone, this is really difficult, I think. But when your partner goes along, so the choice of partner, I think, is immensely important here. Yeah, that so the private choices are kind of political choices to find somebody who's supporting you in your career. And actually, there's also a big gap, by the way. Yeah, so I know that was a study in staff, I think, faculty members in the US. Actually, they were asking men and women about would they step down in their career for their partner? How much willing are they? And or do you do you want to do it equally, or these things? Yeah, and women. And men were 80% no, I won't. Yeah, and women on the other hand would say by 80% I want my partner to be supportive of my career. So there was a big gap, and this is what you find when people don't talk in their relationships about their expectations here, that there is often, unfortunately, a big mismatch. Yeah, and people don't talk because the women just assume, yeah, of course, I have the same rights, yeah, but the guys somehow they still think you have to play along, yeah? and so it becomes difficult when you don't want it, and to be competitive. You need the support, because when you're alone with, and you have to, all the workload, all the mental load alone, then I think it's really difficult. But otherwise, I would say yes. The working hours, this is maybe a little bit a different thing totally in STEM or science. I would say one has to think about the environment, working environment anyways. Yeah. So because this is really something where I know with a child, you cannot work through the weekend, yeah, which I certainly before I did.
Yeah.
Kate, we do have another question coming from the audience to Teresa. Do you see a shift in the mindset with the younger generation when it comes to parental leave and all these issues? Is there a shift you see?
Right.
Is there hope, so to say?
So I have to say, I do. I'm also experiencing my bubble. So it's my colleagues and the people I spend time with that I am basing my answer to. But I can say that for our generation of PhD students, male PhD students are as involved as women in the gender equality discussions and events. Now we will see once they, once we get to the stage of the having a family. But I think I have several examples in our institute of parents that share the parental responsibilities, I would say, equally. So I think it's quite encouraging. Yeah.
Maybe going along with that, Teresa, I'd like to get your perspective on this question as a PhD student. What do you think happened during the pandemic? Because I think the PhD students who really have a limited time to finish their project have the most pressure because of this. So what did you think this did for example, for gender equality in terms of providing maybe visibility to suddenly everybody has a problem and everybody is disadvantaged. So
yeah.
Do you think this had any positive effects on gender equality, or negative or neutral?
So I heard anecdotally, I heard a positive, positive. I heard stories of people that, you know, suddenly they were stuck at home. Men were stuck at home with their kids that were doing homeschooling, and so many of them were like, oh wow, it's really hard to be at home with the kids and also do work, which often women had to do. So I think anecdotally, I think that there was a positive and increased visibility of the, let's say, balance of career and family. But I have to say, like, if you look at the data, it's actually quite discouraging in general for gender equality during COVID. I think that way more women than men lost their job, way more women than men reduced their working hours. And in terms of academic careers, I think there was a drop of the submission by women scientists, but actually an increase of submissions of papers from men scientists. So actually the data is is not great, but you know, at least there is the data, and if we know this now, hopefully there's going to be some initiatives to try to balance this out.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the audience about this topic? No. Okay, then Hala, I would like to address the next question to you. You mentor a lot of women. What do you teach them is the best way to advocate for themselves in a STEM career?
That's a very hard question.
Okay.
Actually, we face lots of challenges in our trainings with women in general, not specifically in the STEM career. What we do is that we provide them with the gender awareness issues. So we have dedicated sessions for gender awareness, gender sensitivity, and we try to, you know, when we have group of women attending that gender session, they tend to connect and they tend to reach the aha point, that's not only me, yani there are another women face the same issues like me, because sometimes women they don't speak out, especially in underdeserved communities. They don't speak out it tends that they don't speak out what they go through, or that they have issues of, I shouldn't say that, or I couldn't reflect that or voice that. But when it is in a very open and free environment of discussion, and when they hear it from another woman who come from same backgrounds, they tend to be more open and discuss issues more. And we connect women so that they learn from each other, because we have all different, they have differences, but then their personal challenges and their businesses and working on ground challenges, there's some similarity. But they tend to listen and learn from each other. But what I have seen, they tend to come together. We have, for each cohort and rounds of trainees, we have like WhatsApp groups Usually women who have like STEM ideas tend to form their subgroups, and they advocate and they support each other, they help each other in the challenges they face in businesses, the challenges they face in life in general, time constraints, family constraints, and all other personal issues. But we try to connect them, we try to guide them through, as I said, gender awareness sessions. And we're also part of what's here is called the Women Entrepreneurship Network. It's a huge network of all public and private and non-governmental entities working with women entrepreneurs. They have like different get along and get together. But it's very important for women to see and learn from other role models. And we usually have guest speakers actually in our cohorts. If we have a round of women working with STEM ideas, we try to bring female entrepreneurs and Egyptian female entrepreneurs with a STEM business or a startup. And we have 2 hours of open discussion and chat with this role model so that they get more inspired. And they know that they are not alone in this journey and this fight. But we try.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. Gabi, do I have time for one more question? Good. Then Carola, I would have another question for you, because you talked about like being othered a little bit. But what we also see also here in Yiddish is a little bit the problem of tokenism. So sometimes, say, successful women are over proportionally asked to take part in especially diverse committees or meetings or whatever. So my question would be, if you had experience of being the token women, and like basically how do you decide when to say yes or no, and how to keep the focus on your work and what's important to you?
Regarding committees, for example, it's a thing that I try usually to do it, especially when it's about hiring committees and for professor appointments or something, because I really believe I can make a difference or advocate for women. Wherever I feel that I can advocate, I try to go. When I know that this environment won't do well, I don't, basically. And I try, Well, I'm tenured and I have a full position, so I'm more free also to do other stuff. Yeah. So I tried not to do it so much before, because I knew I would be asked a lot. Yeah, but that is really the issue. Are you really competitive? Yeah, and to enter science and academia, in order to get a permanent position, you really have to be highly competitive. And this does not work well together with all these additional things. So that one really has to think, is this something where I make connections to other people when I show up, that they will remember me later? Now, this also helps me in my career. Yeah. So when such things happen, one should always jump on. Yeah. For example, and there it also helps sometimes. This I think, for example, in Germany we have this DFG, Deutsche Forschungsgesellschaft, yeah, where you get your third-party money from, but it's kind of, it's not really from companies or something, but it's the way where you have to write proposals and you get grants for projects, basically for science. When there are larger things like graduate schools applied for, they need large panels to review these schools, for example. Yeah? And when I was asked, would I enter such a panel, that was even while I was on parental leave, I said, yes, of course. Yeah, they asked me because I'm a woman and because I'm quite sure that they did this, because they also wanted to increase the number of women in their panels. Yeah. And that was really an effort, yeah, going through all that with a small baby, taking husband along and so on. I did that because this helped a lot. Yeah, when people receive you there, well, this is really done at the universities where your colleagues see you are in this panel and they know you grant the money or not. And this gives you also a different status. Yeah, it was a lot of work and it was exhausting, but it was really well worth it to do so. Yeah? So like this kind of, I try to judge. And nowadays, I really also try to be there when we talk or when we have information days for young students, because I want to promote young women who think they might go into physics or something or chemistry to see, that there's a woman. And actually, I realized that already last time when I did it here, I realized that I get more questions from the female students than from the male students. And my colleagues, for my colleagues, male colleagues who are there, they're from chemistry and biology, it's different. Yeah, so gender plays a role there. And so there, I think for me this is important, because I think we have to be more and stick together, stay together, and be strong together to climb the hill together.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So we're actually almost finished with our 2 hours. I would like to then have one more question from the audience just to end, from Hiba Fatafta, directed to Hala. She asks, do you recognize that awareness help to improve women face their problems? And does this enhance statistics on women's numbers in the field? Yeah, Hala.
Actually, it would be a great research topic to measure the impact. Actually, there are no statistics that really measure the impact of that awareness session on women engagement in the STEM field. However, it would be great to study something like this. But from our regular observation and being in the market for a while, it really affects, even if it doesn't have an immediate effect, but it have a long-term to medium-term effect on the woman realization of their work importance, and that they play a major role in the society and in the economy, because women in Egypt work informally in different type of jobs that is not accounted for and recorded for. If they have the awareness that they can even do more, not even for themselves and for their families and for the community at large, I'm sure that this awareness, even if we don't sometimes see an immediate impact, but I'm sure it does impact them in the medium to long term in their lives.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for the very interesting discussion, to Carola and Teresa and Hala, but also to all the audience members for participating and being interactive. And also big thanks to Gabi for organizing everything and for having us. And now I'm going to turn off my microphone and let her take over.
Oh, okay. No, I could listen to you for hours, all of you. So a massive thank you for an amazing session. What a powerful, inspiring and interesting session, shedding the light on the many challenges, but also opportunities for women in science, in innovation and the STEM business. Thank you all for having shared your very personal experiences, which I think make this panel so authentic, so worth listening to and being involved. And as Carola, you put it so aptly, yes, let's stick together, let's fight together for more gender equity. And I have one final question for you. We want to have your feedback. We highly appreciate your feedback. So one final poll for today, and we would be very happy if you could quickly answer the 3 questions. This will be anonymous. I will not share this with you. So this is only for our internal use. So please take a few more seconds to give you your feedback, please. Those who are still with us. And as we are all multitasking, I would like to shed the light on what's next on the GAWL agenda for next year, because next year we're going to exactly discuss what we just finished with, closing the gender gap, sure, but how to really do. Again, we are expecting amazing speakers, Sana Bardawil, co-chair and board member from the Arab International Women's Forum, a long-standing partner to GAWBL, will be joining. Elham Zeedat, CEO Bloom Dead Sea Gifts Enterprise from Jordan, will be with us. She is not only an entrepreneur, but she is mentoring young female entrepreneurs and has a lot to say and to share about her very practical oriented experience on empowering and boosting women. And we're going to have Regina Rybalev, manager at Finance in Motion, as of today, but there will be more speakers, and we would be very happy if you would join us on January 26th. Same time, same place, same spirit, and registration will soon be open. So again, to Kate, to Carola, to Teresa, to Hala, it was such a pleasure having you with us. Let's stay connected, and wishing you all a good end of the year. Come well into the new one. Stay well, safe, healthy, and stay optimistic, because that's what we all need. Stay optimistic. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, and hopefully see you on January 26th for another inspiring session. And
Thank
Carola
you.
Meyer, you say, stay in STEM, you can make a difference. I couldn't agree more. So thank you so much. Bye-bye, and have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.